Let's bring in Crystal Ball, a Democratic strategist and a senior fellow at the New Leaders Council, and Mercedes Schlapp, Mercy, I'll get it right, Republican strategist and Fox News contributor. Mercedes, Clinton getting endorsements from these big names. They also back the idea, particularly Buffett. She's gotten on board with his minimum tax that wealthy people should make. But does this hurt Donald Trump at all?
Well, let me tell you, this is an election not of billionaires. This election is about the working class. And so those endorsements, I don't think necessarily matter the way they normally do. Interestingly enough, obviously Warren Buffett is no surprise. He's a lifelong Democrat who's supported Obama in the past. So that is not a surprise. I think Mark Cuban is an interesting get. He's been one who has been trying to figure out if he can find a political role at first with either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton as a possible VP pick back in the day. But his comments about Hillary Clinton in the past just really don't line up with this endorsement. He says there's lots of negatives with Hillary Clinton. Quote, he basically said she's made horrible mistakes on Libya, Benghazi. So it's interesting to see that the outspoken Mark Cuban has decided to go forward and endorse Hillary Clinton.
Crystal, do these billionaires and these billionaire businessmen matter to the voters? I always say about celebrities that they can help raise money for a candidate, but with the exception of Oprah Winfrey, they don't really get voters out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't totally disagree with that, but I would say Michael Bloomberg gave a very powerful speech at the DNC, and part of what he tried to do is say, look, I'm a successful businessman too, I'm self-made, I see, you know, Donald's argument that he's a businessman and that's how he can run the country, and this is why I, as a businessman, can make the argument that he doesn't have the leadership skills and the temperament to be able to pull that off. I mean, that's what was interesting. We'll see what Warren Buffett says, though, about both Cuban and Bloomberg's arguments. They weren't partisan arguments. They weren't fiscal arguments or financial arguments. They were really about their fear that Donald Trump did not have the temperament for this job. I'd also say, you know, I don't know that Hillary's getting any more billionaire supporters than Donald Trump is. It's not really clear. He's got a few billionaires of his own. But to the extent that she does have more support there, I think it's more in line with this broader trend that she's winning over college-educated voters in a way that past Democrats haven't, and billionaires tend to be college-educated, although obviously not always.
I just wanted to quickly point out, Cheryl, before I get in, what I was talking about is part of Hillary Clinton's tax proposals, very much targeting the wealthy. There's a 30% minimum tax on incomes over $2 million, which is right in line with what Warren Buffett's been calling for, and then an additional 4% surcharge on people making more than $5 million a year. Cheryl?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I wanted to bring this to Mercedes' attention because Mark Cuban, you were talking about his endorsement of Hillary Clinton, but at the same time, this is more of a hit against Donald Trump, which may, I think, benefit him in the long run. You know, Cuban called Donald Trump a jagoff. I didn't know what that was. Turns out.
Are we allowed to say that? I know what it is. Are we allowed to say that at 6:06 in the morning? I'm glad I didn't say it, but go ahead, Cheryl.
I'll take the hit for you here, Dagan. A person who is irritating because of being inept or stupid. That's what a jagoff is. And that's what Cubans use to...
That's the word of the day.
Yeah, and I think that actually might help Donald Trump, Mercedes, at the end, because he's going to go after Cuban. This is a personal fight between the two.
It is. It sounds like two billionaires with two very big egos. But, you know, I think it's been fascinating to see these reality stars like Mark Cuban really getting involved in the political process. This is something that we're seeing in this unconventional year of politics. But again, I want to point out that this really is about the forgotten working class. And that is where the heart of this election lies. It's these individuals who have been so frustrated by what you have seen with the weak economic growth under President Obama. And what we're seeing is that this election is going to be based largely on the economy. And what we're seeing is a very tepid, I mean, the GDP that came out last week at 1%, it's just something that I think goes against the Democratic position on the economy, which, as we know, Hillary Clinton last week alone embraced democratic socialism. We should be worried, America.
And Crystal, to that point, she now has these billionaires endorsing her. So what does that do to the Bernie supporters? She can't seem to make up her mind. Does she want independents? Does she want people who are undecided? Does she want people who voted for her husband back in the 90s? Or is she trying to court Bernie Sanders? Because you can't have it both ways.
Well, she is trying to do all of the above, and essentially the argument is, as was really laid out at the DNC, this man cannot be trusted with the nuclear codes. And that's what Mark Cuban's saying, that's what Michael Bloomberg is saying, in very different language. Obviously, Mark Cuban a little more colorful than Michael Bloomberg. And I suspect we'll hear a little bit of that from Warren Buffett, although I suspect he'll also make the economic argument you're talking about. Interestingly here, none of these guys must be doing this for their own personal self-interest, because Donald Trump, as you're pointing out, would give them a massive tax break, and Hillary Clinton wants to up taxes on the wealthy. I mean, Donald Trump would completely do away with the estate tax, for one example.
They've made their fortune, so they don't need to worry about having their income taxed. Want to move on
They're going to be just fine either way.
Hillary Clinton giving her first interview since accepting the Democratic presidential nomination to Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, and she addressed the email investigation. Listen to this.
Director Comey said that my answers were truthful, and what I've said is consistent with what I have told the American people. That there were decisions discussed and made to classify retroactively certain of the emails.
Crystal, her account differs quite a bit from the scathing analysis given by FBI Director Comey. How does this impact her ongoing issues with trust? I think, 68% of people don't find her trustworthy.
Yeah. You know, overall, I thought this interview, she did a really nice job. She had some great moments there talking about her mom that were very human and very personal. But she just has not handled this email issue well from the start. At first, she didn't want to apologize for what was clearly a mistake in how things were set up. And then she really opened herself up for this problem by stating so confidently that she hadn't sent or received anything that was classified. And, of course, it came out that she did. So I didn't think she handled this well. I think it continues to drag out this story. I think it continues to drag on her trustworthy numbers. She's just got to come out and say, you know, this was a mistake. I've learned from it. I really didn't mean to send or receive anything classified. As it's come out, I have, and just take the hit and be able to move forward, because otherwise it just continues to drag on.
But you're saying she can't go out there and say she didn't mean to send classified information, because she did. She deliberately set up her server so she could send classified information regardless.
Well,
I mean,
that's speculative. That's not in line with what Comey found. He found no intent in that regard, which is why he said, you know, this wasn't a case that deserved to be prosecuted. So, but you know, I think she needs to be a lot more straightforward here and a lot less defensive, and come clean and ask for the public's forgiveness and to give her another shot, and that she's learned her lesson from this.
Mercedes, final word to you.
I think, Crystal, that's great advice, actually. When you look at the Washington Post coming out and giving her 4 Pinocchios, 4 Pinocchios means liar, liar, pants on fire. So I think for Hillary Clinton, this is an ongoing problem. If she would have hit it straight on, it could help her with this trustworthy issue. I think it's just too late, because she just doesn't want to accept reality.